Good evening, members, and welcome to this meeting of Full Council. I'm Councillor Diana Garrett, Chairman of the Council, and I will be chairing the meeting this evening. Members, this meeting is being webcast this evening via the Council's YouTube channel. We're not expecting a fire alarm, however, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits and assemble in the car park. Please can I remind everyone in the chamber to ensure that they have their mobile phones switched to silent to avoid disruptions to this evening's business. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours. I'd be grateful if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issue being considered. If members wish to speak this evening, please can you indicate by clearly raising your hand. I'll now proceed to the first item of business, agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Parker, Councillor Jack Edwards and Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Paul Thorogood has advised that he'll be coming along slightly later to tonight's meeting as he's had to attend a meeting at Coggeshall Parish Council in his capacity as Essex County Councillor. Don't believe there are any further apologies to note.
Chairman, we've got Councillor Walsh.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I give apologies for Councillor Dennis Abram? He's also at a key meeting with Coggeshall Parish Council tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members. I'll proceed to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest they wish to declare this evening? If so, could you please state the item and nature of your interest? Councillor Schweer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just generally as a member of Essex County Council, as it may well be discussed tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Toby Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In relation to agenda item 7, I'm a director of a political communications company that supports the development industry. I just wanted to flag tonight that I don't work for or advocate for clients in the Braintree district, but I just wanted to flag that as just as a matter of fact. Really.
That's lovely, thank you.
Chairman, so can I ask you to remind members that they should be standing to address you in full council?
Yes, please. If you could stand to address me when we're in full council, please. Councillor Wrench.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just with reference to agenda item 10, particularly page 68, references 1 or 2, it's with regards to polling stations. It's just to note that the school that I'm head teacher at is a polling station within the district.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just declare non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council, likely to be mentioned throughout the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, to declare an interest on item 6 as a member of the Local Government Association.
Thank you. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bellsflint.
Councillor Mrs. Pell. No?
Bellsflint.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Bellsflint.
That's okay, Madam Chairman. I just declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County
Thank
Council.
Are there any further interests at all to be clear? No? Thank you very much. I will proceed to agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Members, we are being asked to approve the minutes of the meeting of full council held on Monday the 19th of February 2024, which have been circulated to all members and published on the council's website. Please can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record of the meeting held on the 19th of February 2024. Councillor Butland, thank you very much. And now seek a seconder.
Second, Chairman.
Councillor Cunningham. Councillor
Yeah, I'd like to propose four amendments to the minutes. There's a typo at paragraph 43. The word councillor has been spelt wrongly. Typo at paragraph 47. The word curbside has been incorrectly spelled. Paragraph 48, I think it's the first sentence, doesn't read, it's poor English. But I think the most serious one is paragraph 47, where Councillor Martin mentioned about violence against women. Unfortunately, and I know it's completely inadvertent, the wording says the council supports that. I think it should say it supports measures against that.
Thank you. We will.
Chairman, if members are minded of those minutes can be approved of those amendments as set out by Councillor Abbott as detailed. So we'll make sure that they are duly corrected and circulated for full council. Full council are minded to accept those minutes with those amendments tonight.
Yeah.
So, Chairman, would you like to call all
Yes.
in favour?
Are you all in favour, please?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Any against? Thank you very much. I will-
Chairman, you need to call if there's any abstentions.
Any abstentions as well, please?
No, thank you,
No,
Chairman.
thank you. The minutes have now been approved, moved and seconded as an accurate record, save for Councillor Abbott's amendments. All those,
We'll deal with that.
thank
next
you very
week,
much.
madam.
Yes, thank you very much. We will now move to agenda item 4, public question time. Members, we have no registered speakers for this evening's meeting, so I'll proceed to the next item of business on agenda item 5, announcements and statements from the Chairman and Leader of the Council. Members, I start my announcements with the sad news that a former colleague, Hilton Johnson, has passed away. Hilton was first elected as a councillor in May 2011, representing the Headingham ward, which he did until May 2023. During his time as a councillor, Hilton served on several committees, including the Planning and Licensing Committees and the former Governance Committee. Hilton was appointed Vice Chairman of the Governance Committee, later the Governance and Audit Scrutiny Committee in April 2018, a role that he retained until April 2022. Hilton was also an active member of Sybil Headingham Parish Council before stepping down in May 2023. Hilton's funeral will be held this Wednesday, the 20th of March 2024, at the Three Counties Crematorium, High Garratt. On behalf of the members and officers of the Council, I offer the Council's most sincere condolences to Hilton's family and friends. Thank you. Since the last meeting of Council in February, I have attended several engagements, including the High Sheriff's Awards, where I was able to connect with various people from the voluntary sector and hear about the good work they are doing in our local communities. I was also honoured to be chosen to be part of the International Women's Day campaign around Braintree Village Shopping Centre and attend Braintree Town Football Club, where they hosted a Fellas Fair, an event which included a wide variety of support and information about men's health and well-being. At half-time, the club presented a donation to the Errol McKellar Prostate Cancer Charity, who aspire to provide a mobile testing facility. On the night, Braintree won 2-0 against Dartford, so it was a good evening all round. A full list of engagements I have attended since the last meeting of full council will be published on the council's website. I would now like to invite Councillor Graham Butland, Leader of the Council, to make any announcements. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members, I'd like to make a further statement regarding Wethersfield Airfield, if I might. Further to my statement at the full council on February, there have been some further events that have taken place, and I'd like to keep members up to date. First of all, there a cap on numbers. We heard today that the Home Office have confirmed that they have made a decision to cap the maximum number of people residing at Wethersfield at any one time to 800. Currently, we are aware that the capacity of the site is 1,245, and we understand that the Home Office will therefore use the remaining 445 bed spaces for short periods of time. This, Madam Chairman, clearly is a reduction from the 1,700 originally intended and is in response to lessons learned and the concerns expressed by this council and the local community. I turn next to the Special Development Order, the SDO. Currently, the Home Office continues to occupy Wethersfield under Emergency Permitted Development Rights, known as Class Q, and this provision expires in April 2024. We understand that the Home Office is still planned to extend the use of the site for at least a further 3 years by seeking planning permission through a Special Development Order. We understand that this is progressing, and we await to hear more from the Home Office. We were given the opportunity to provide our comments on this process, where we raised various concerns over the lack of information provided and the failure to ensure meaningful engagement with stakeholders and the local community. We will continue to keep our residents updated as and when we are provided with more information on the SDO. The cap on numbers, however, is, as we understand it, separate to the ongoing considerations by the Home Office around the SDO. While the site, with the site still in operation, we continue to maintain an open dialogue with the Home Office whilst holding them to account and doing our best, working alongside partner agencies to ensure that the needs of residents, both local people and those living at the site, are met. I turn next to funding. Following the decision taken in February, the Council has sought permission from the Home Office to provide £50,000 worth of funding received by this Council to date and will support discretionary activity on the site. Whilst accountability for support for asylum seekers remains with the Home Office, we recognise this as an important element of ensuring a safe and self-sufficient site, mitigating the impact on the surrounding community. I can just remind members, the Council is required to administer this funding in accordance with Home Office instructions. The primary aim is to reduce the pressure on statutory services resulting from the use of the site for asylum seekers. And this funding is one-off and expected to cover the entirety of the time that the site remains in use. Madam Chairman, applications have been received from groups the Home Office is in conversations with and who they will authorise to work on site. The deadline for applications against this grant funding was the 4th of March, and we will be imminently be letting groups know the outcome of the evaluation of those applications. Finally, I turn to the appeal. We have received confirmation that our appeal against the decision of the High Court, within which we challenge the Home Office's decision to use RAF Wethersfield site, will be heard before the Court of Appeal on the 11th and 12th of June 2024. This has been listed alongside appeals brought by West Lindsey District Council for the RAF Scampton site and the appeal by a resident from Wethersfield. Following the announcements of the intention to seek an SDO and the Court of Appeal hearing dates, we are currently reviewing our legal challenge, which will take into account the costs likely to be incurred. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. We'll now proceed to agenda item 6, motion by Councillor Bevis, support for the Local Government Association's debate Not to Hate campaign. Members, this motion is set out on page 6 of the agenda, and I can confirm that there are no amendments for this motion. Councillor Bevis and Councillor Hooks, the proposer and seconder of the motion, are both present this evening, so this motion may proceed. Councillor Bevis, please can you formally move your motion? Please can I remind you that before you make your speech on your motion, it must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bevis. Councillor Hooks, you are recorded as the seconder of this motion. Please confirm that you second this motion, and do you wish to speak? Reserve your right to speak.
Yes, Madam Chair, I will second the motion and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Members, the motion has been formally moved and seconded by Councillor Bevis and Councillor Hooks. I'll now invite Councillor Bevis to make her speech.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, members. The debate Not Hate and Civility in Public Life is about ending abuse in public life for councillors by signing up to the LGA campaign and respecting the principles. Debating and disagreeing with one another is a healthy part of democracy, but abuse and intimidation crosses the line, is in dangerous territory, so the right engagement matters. 7 in 10 councillors reported experiencing abuse or intimidation, according to the LGA 2022 councillor census. The Debate Not Hate campaign aims to raise public awareness of the roles of councillors in their community and encourages healthy debate and improves responses and support for local politicians facing abuse and intimidation. By signing up to the LGA campaign demonstrates how a council can better support our members to prevent and handle abuse. As a councillor, I have signed the campaign. In fact, all my members present here this evening have indeed signed the campaign, and I'm rather hoping that all members individually will sign up as well. And it gives really good advice and top tips, and finding good practice in their roles as councillors. I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bevis. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Councillor Butland, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Taylor, would you like to start?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd like to thank Councillor Bevis for giving us the opportunity, thank you for putting it on the agenda tonight and giving us the opportunity to discuss this important issue. I hadn't realised that 7 out of 10 councillors had expressed some concerns on this matter, and I will sign up to the campaign. I think that's only right. Words matter, Madam Chairman, and I'll give you an example of my time on Havering Council. We had a planning committee meeting in which there was a contentious application, and unfortunately some councillors said that a respite institution for victims of domestic violence would be actually housing paedophiles, and they worked up members of the public, and I was actually on that planning committee, and we had about 50 members of the public that tried to attack councillors, and we had the police come in and remove them from the chamber. My own house was actually being protected and surveillanced by the police for about 3 or 4 days. So I think words really do matter, and I think everything we do in the chamber, I know politics, there's a temptation to put spin on things, but it has to be proportionate and realistic. And I think also, the one thing to add, that increasingly I think members of elected chambers at local level increasingly and at national level are increasingly under threat. And I saw David Amos 11 days before he was murdered. And a dear friend of mine who was the MP for Dewsbury before the election, her friend Jo Cox was murdered in the constituency next door. And I think attacks on our elected representatives is scary and is rather ominous. So I'm very pleased to support that, and thanks Councillor Bevis for putting this on the motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Staines, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this motion and have signed the LGA statement individually and join the likes of Councillor Kevin Bentley from Essex County Council as well.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Walsh, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also strongly support this motion, and as been mentioned, the deaths of Jo Cox and Sir David Amos remind us of its importance, and indeed I think the temptation sometimes to get, shall we say, a bit carried away and sometimes even veer into toxicity on social media is unfortunate, and I would hope that as councillors on Braintree we would seek to act as role models, including our standards of debate both in our chamber and in our wider community. Lastly, I would hope too that we see our code of conduct and indeed the Nolan principles not so much as a tick box exercise that we try to abide by most of the time or when we're in the mood, but as essential and indeed as a minimum, as a way of putting our values into practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Abbott?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I've signed the LGA pledge today, and I support this motion, and I too would like to thank Councillor Bevis and Councillor Hooks for bringing it for debate tonight. It is a very important subject. I could say a lot more from a personal perspective, but I don't think this is the right place to do so. What I would say is that there's two sides to the coin. One is the need for us all to be careful about how we engage, as has been said. It's quite right that we should be able to have robust political discussion, but it's not right when it becomes personalised. The flip side to that coin is when things do go wrong, there is a need for proper mechanisms to deal with it.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Chairman. I rise to support the motion put forward by Councillor Mrs Beavis. Really, it's a shame that we have to have such a motion. Someone who has been 53 years now involved in local government on and off. You know, in 1970, when I first got elected, one wouldn't have dreamed of this happening. We didn't have, I do believe social media is very toxic. I've read some fairly toxic emails even this afternoon. Sometimes we also collectively need to be careful what we ourselves say on media, social media, because it opens the gate, I think, for those with far more malevolent thoughts. So I fully support it. I hope and would encourage all members individually of the council to sign up to the LGA, and also that we will do that as a council as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Hooks. Sorry, anyone else wishing to speak? Sorry, Councillor Finken. Thank you.
The Labour Group will support this motion. We believe that civility, courtesy and respect are essential in public life, and we hope that all councillors will also support the motion. But we also believe, like some of the previous speakers have said, that it's important we don't just pay lip service to the importance of civility, but make it a part of our discourse and behaviour with each other. We need to be setting an example to the public. All the members of our group were elected for the first time last May, or returned to the council after a break. We have been shocked and saddened by some of the instances of incivility during council and committee meetings during the past year. So let us turn over a new leaf. Adopt, debate, not hate is the watchwords for our language and our behaviour in our dealings with each other, and pledge to lead in this matter so that others will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finken. Councillor Hooks, as a seconder to the motion and having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
Yes, please, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the honour in seconding tonight's Debate Not Hate motion. Some of you are aware that I've recently completed the prestigious LGA Next Generation course. One of the modules during the second weekend of training involved civility in public life and included a section on the LGA Debate Not Hate campaign. This resonated with myself, and even though my course was the independent version of the Next Gen course, we are, of course, whatever political persuasion we are in this together. We have all put ourselves forward to represent our communities. This is what brings us together, but it is also what divides us. But where we should be consistent is that there is no hatred, abuse or intimidation in our roles. The intimidation and abuse of councillors, in person or otherwise, undermines the democracy, preventing elected members from representing the communities we serve, deterring individuals for standing for election and undermining public life in democratic processes. Over the last few years, and even in the past few days, there have been high-profile cases of hatred towards politicians and officers, some with tragic consequences. It is just not at the highest level. It can happen at all levels of local government. As Councillor Beavis has stated, 7 out of 10 councillors said in the LGA census that they had experienced abuse or intimidation. 1 in 10 is one too many, but 7 is horrifying. Imagine wanting to do your best for your community and your council, but all you receive is abuse and ridicule. There are many ways in which councillors can feel uneasy in their roles. I'm sure many of us have received unpleasant comments on social media, and I'm sure many across the country have felt uncomfortable in chambers. Healthy, proactive debate is fantastic. After all, we're not all coming from the same viewpoint, but intimidation should not and must not have its place. I am here to say that we need to stand together, work together, and show solidarity for each other. We are all human, and there should be compassion in what we are trying to achieve in public life. The LGA Debate Not Hate campaign is a cross-party document. Over 700 councillors have already signed up, myself included, and by the sounds of it, many of you will be doing this later on as well. Since 2022, 29 councillors of all types of political control have signed up. This is not a substantial number yet, considering the number of district and unitary councils across the country, but one by one, we need to demonstrate that we care and we will respect each other. Signing up to the Debate Not Hate campaign will benefit and protect us all. We need to have clear mechanisms to record incidents of intimidation and abuse to councillors and officers. The support that is given to us as councillors and to our officers should be regularly reviewed. We should be proactively working with the police about the concerns and safety of councillors and their families and have a preventive approach to all, like other high-risk individuals such as MPs. We need to ensure that there is zero tolerance towards our officers and ourselves. I am sure that our governance team and the administration will say that we do most of this already and that we have robust procedures in place, but there is no harm in checking and going further to protect us all. So I am asking that this council helps lead the way with this valuable campaign. Let's sign up. Let's have it on our agenda. Let's show our support on our website and our email footers. Let's help stamp out intimidation and abuse for the greater good in politics. I hope that every person in this chamber this evening will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hook. Councillor Beavis, as the proposer of the motion, you may reply. Please can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard this evening and you should not introduce any new matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I would like to think that all members in the chamber will look at Councillor Hooks this evening and say, well, actually, Next Generation has worked really well for Anne. Maybe I need to do it myself because that's what it does. I think I'm Next Generation 5. I don't know what number Anne is, but it's done through the Local Government Association, of which we are members. So, and when Anne came to me about during the course, and she's taken lots of time, weekends before and after Christmas doing the course, I was more than happy to put her forward. So, and it was Anne actually that came back from her course and racing back with all these ideas and enthusiasm, which is what we should be doing, you know, breathing life into the council. And when our group looked at forthcoming motions, we thought this would be a perfect one to get in before the end of the civic year. I was really proud and privileged to launch the Civility in Public Life Debate Not Hate campaign with Marianne Overton, MBE, and supported by Tammy Gray-Thompson, who's the LGA support lead in the House of Lords. So, the strength that we have at the LGA is our cross-party support. So on the day of the launch, it was really supported and really shouted out by all parties, which was really good news. So, yeah, nothing further to add. I'm delighted with the comments that members have made this evening. And as well as supporting the campaign, I'd really like us, as it was said by Councillor Walsh and also by Councillor Thinken, about, you know, let's do some public promotion about this and be a trailblazer and be not frightened of saying that we really support this and this is how we're going to act in this chamber. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. We will now take the vote. The motion set out on page 6 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate.
Chairman, that appears to be unanimous.
That appears to be unanimous, I believe. Thank you very much. That is unanimous and the motion has been approved. Thank you, members. We will now proceed to the second motion for this evening, agenda item 7, motion by Councillor James Abbott, delivery of community infrastructure. Members, this motion is set out on page 7 of the agenda and there is also amendment to the published motion. All members have received notice of the amendment and a copy of the addendum report was published on Friday the 15th of March 2024. In accordance with the procedural rules for motion, we must attend to the amendment first. Councillor Abbott and Councillor Beavis, the proposer and seconder of the motion, are present, so the motion may proceed, and Councillor Spray and Councillor Tom Cunningham, the proposer and seconder of the amendment to the motion, are also present. We begin the consideration of this motion by first moving and seconding the motion as published on page 7 of the agenda. Councillor Abbott, please can you formally move your motion? Please can I remind you that before you make your speech on your motion, it must be seconded.
I formally move the motion as set out.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Beavis, you are recorded as the seconder of this motion. Please confirm that you second this motion and do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally second the motion and I reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bevis. Members, the motion has been formally moved and seconded by Councillor Abbott and Councillor Bevis. Before proceeding with the speeches and debate on the motion, we now need to deal with the amendment as set out in the addendum report. Councillor Spray, as the proposer of the amendment to the motion, please can I invite you to move your amendment. You will be invited to speak on your amendment once it has been seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I formally move the amendment as set out in the addendum.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Tom Cunningham, you are recorded as the seconder of the amendment to the motion. Please confirm that you second the amendment and do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Formally second the amendment as set out in the addendum and reserve right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Members, the amendment to the motion has been formally moved and seconded by Councillor Spray and Councillor Cunningham. I now invite Councillor Spray to make her speech on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The reason for bringing forward this amendment is that the original motion does not acknowledge how successful the Section 106 process is in providing support for local schemes for the district's towns and villages. This funding comes about as a direct result of house building in the district, providing the housing numbers we need and the much needed affordable housing. Now we know, especially those of us involved in the planning committee, that not all developments are welcomed with open arms. Some are in fact strongly objected to. Some are refused by officers and members but then granted on appeal. However, at the very least, the district gains funding from the developers and benefits directly from this money. More importantly, under the current Section 106 process, it gives our towns and villages the opportunity to say what new or improved facilities they would like to see in their areas and where they would like to see those facilities located. They have a direct say in this process, and this Council's Section 106 officers, Neil Jones and Sarah Burder, perform an excellent job of supporting them in providing advice and guiding them through the process. There's a lot of information available on Section 106 monies held by Braintree Council, but Chairman, I'm just going to give some headline figures, really just to give an indication of what is involved. Over the last 5 years, the district's housing delivery rate has increased, and therefore, so has the amount of Section 106 money received from developers. In the financial year 2023 to 24, Section 106 contributions received was 1.8 million, just a little over that, in fact. Section 106 contributions spent, £833,661. Housing delivery, 1,016 completions, and these figures are the up-to-date figures to the 29th of February this year. We are holding more money now than we did in September 23, despite having spent 833,000 so far, but this reflects how good we are at getting the money in, 1.8 million, as I said, since April of last year. Section 106 balances held at 29th of February total £11,190,022. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is a big sum. But many of the contributions we are holding are dependent on the engagement of third parties to spend them, as the mover and seconder of tonight's original motion are well aware. Healthcare money is held by BDC, but delivery is the responsibility of the NHS. Highways money is held on behalf of ECC, but delivery is the responsibility of the Highway Authority. At the 29th of February, we are holding over 1.9 million for healthcare. 1.9 million. As a district council, we cannot unfortunately spend that money, but officers are at all levels, right up to director and chief exec level, in regular contact with the NHS, encouraging them to invest in healthcare facilities in the district. And actually, I believe the leader, Councillor Butland, has also made representation to senior NHS officers on the subject. If I'm wrong at that, but he will no doubt correct me. Cumulatively, the health and highways contributions, the Halstead and Whittam community building contributions, and the 3G pitch project contributions account for just under 47% of the Section 106 monies held by BDC. With regards to the contribution spend that BDC does control, there are some high-value, long-running projects being progressed. For example, the Mortings Lane Community Centre, that's one example. And although we are a little way off making payment for some of these high schemes, once that money is spent, there will be a noticeable impact on reducing the overall balance held. In the meantime, many projects around the district, from the very small, so, one piece of new play equipment in a village playground, up to much larger schemes on new developments, those schemes are coming forward. It's also worth mentioning that since landscape architect Julia Watts started in August last year with this council, a number of projects, which I think it's fair to say had stalled for various reasons, are now either fully delivered or are progressing at pace. Town and parish councils are engaging well with Section 106 officers. Some need more support than others, but that's absolutely fine. I understand that Witham Town Council and Hatfield Peveril Parish Council are particularly active in holding regular meetings with officers, and as a result, many community benefit projects have been delivered to those areas using Section 106 funds, and well done to them. That's great to hear. One change to the Section 106 process that has been made in order to assist town and parish councils is that we have streamlined our requirements in the detail around the procurement that they need to evidence before BDC is comfortable to release money for them to spend on projects. Previously, 3 quotes were required for certain works. Now, as long as we're satisfied they have procured works as per their own procurement rules, then we're able to release funding to them. And this saves everyone time, and it means they're able to access the funding more quickly. Feedback is that the town and parish councils are already appreciating this change, and it is enabling us to get money spent quicker. Finally, Chairman, as Councillor Abbott is clearly keen to see Section 106 money spent on the delivery of community infrastructure, I do have an update on Cressing, which is within his ward. Officers have met on many occasions over the last few years with the parish clerk and some of the parish councillors to assist with allocating Section 106 money, which has come as a result of the house building in that area. Cressing are now close to completing new changing facilities at the Jeffreys Road playing field. This has been a huge project for them, and so far £154,888.96 has been allocated from Section 106 funding to this project. There is at least one more pot of money to come from a developer imminently to finish the Jeffreys Road changing rooms. There are 2 further sums of Section 106 monies available to Cressing, just over £15,000 and £573, and I understand that the parish council are currently obtaining quotes for new playground surfacing and a playground roundabout to use that money. So new homes may not find favour in all quarters, but it's not all bad news, even in Cressing. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Do any members wish to speak on this amendment? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the amendment only and may only speak once on the amendment. Members will have the opportunity to speak on the motion later in this item. Councillor Abbott.
Councillor Stones. Councillor Dervish. Councillor Davis. Councillor Billy Taylor. That's all members who've indicated, Chairman.
That's all. Right, so we can begin the debate, can't we? Sorry, who's the first one? Councillor Dervish, wasn't it? Councillor Dervish, would you like to begin this debate, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I speak in support of the new amendment because the Council does indeed have an excellent record in levering funding for the community. Funding has been and continues to be provided within local areas through Section 106 funding, despite many comments from the opposition that Section 106 money is not spent within rural communities where the development has taken place. This I have to disagree. The Section 106 money has been received within my rural ward and where the housing was built. And an example of this is £265,000 for new gym equipment and play equipment on the Rec at Hatfield Peveril, £10,000 allocated to the allotment, and a further £19,000 for public right-of-way improvements, with much more to come with further developments on the horizon within the village. This is also a shining example of the work that the Parish Council is working in partnership with BDC officers to ensure this money is allocated effectively and timely and in the areas that it is deserved and most impacted. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Derbysh. Councillor Stones.
Thank you, Chair. I do not support the amendment for two reasons. It seems to change the fundamental premise of the motion of looking forward to improve performance and secure more from developers by taking better aligned to the needs of the community versus looking back at the administrative success or otherwise of the corporation's role in drafting developer contribution agreements and getting those contributions paid, which was not its goal. The amendment plays down Braintree District Council's influence beyond its statutory remit and misses the point that Braintree District Council should be lobbying on behalf of communities to secure as much funding as it can and then once obtained, chasing for the timely release of funds to communities. BDC and Essex County Council receive large monitoring fees to do this. The tables of community infrastructure levy fees for Essex transparently cover health, education, libraries, waste management. Highways is a little bit different because they have S278 notices, and passenger transport, which seeks to mitigate the impact of the development on local public transport network, if there is one. And usually these are from the first occupation. However, they are not consulted with the communities required to absorb development. In fact, some lead to new communities being established within existing communities, which undermines the integration we all seek. Are these rates that Essex County Council includes in their CIL up to date, especially with our crumbling schools and healthcare centres, even as they are expected to gear up for intensified use from new residents? I'm not sure where the Essex County Council Waste and Minerals permissions fit either. You'll know that the third largest incinerator in the UK is being built at Rivenhall, and the multiple new quarry sites proposed around Braintree. What do residents receive from these multi-million-pound commercial operations? Will this amendment support BDC pushing for more, and also at each opportunity the developers get by varying their agreements? Just coming back to the example of the waste incinerator, the Community Trust Fund is going to get 5 pence per tonne, or £30,000 a year. The latest landfill rate per tonne is currently £102, rising to 126 in April. Now, the government's got no issue pursuing folks. One is BDC.
Could you please keep to the item in question, please? You seem to be straying a little bit.
Yeah, I was just trying to say, to point that the existing S106 contribution is very small in comparison to the revenue that the incinerator will get as a developer. We believe that with additional transparency and engagement, BDC could harness the combined power of communities, residents, business and specialist groups to lobby for more funding from developers across a broader range of services, including important things we've spoken about in this chamber, including modern air quality monitoring and possibly even periodic detailed independent traffic surveys to head off dodgy developer models and the risk of costly appeal success, just adding to residents' congestion misery. So in summary, let's look forward and not look back, unless it helps us to identify future opportunities overlooked in the past. Let's not stifle our officers and executives or exclude local, non-statutory groups from discussions about potential developer contributions to their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The paragraph 40 of the National Planning Policy Framework makes it very clear, talking about consultation and engagement, as does Braintree District Council's own Statement of Community Involvement, paragraph 8.11, which encourages applicants to engage with stakeholders, elected representatives, and consult communities. Councillor Staines kind of puts the onus purely on BDC, but the SCI and the NPPF make it very clear that councillors and communities have a role in engaging with applicants in the development process and to try and establish what the needs and aspirations of a community might be. So I think it's not just an onus on the blob of bureaucrats in local government, but it is with members as well. So we'd encourage councillors to engage with developers in a pre-application process, and the developer would also submit their own statement of community involvement outlining how they've consulted and how they've responded to local feedback, and you might just be surprised what you can get out of a proposed scheme. And certainly there are trigger points that you can put into a planning application. If you were to deliver a new school or a doctor's surgery, you could say, well, before the first house is built or the 50th house is built, the school or the doctor's surgery has to be built before the development's completed. So there's just points to raise there. I fully support sustainable growth in the right locations. I think NIMBYism is a terrible thing. So I'm very much a YIMBY, but the growth has to be sustainable. One thing we saw certainly in Whittam in the local elections, all the political parties concurred. They agreed that we need extra health facilities, and I think that's a good thing, and we should be encouraging more of it. There's consensus there. However, trying to obtain those kinds of pieces of physical infrastructure are hard to get, and I'll give you an example. In Chafford 100 in Thurrock, a planning application, an applicant proposed to build a 10 or 11 storey block of flats, and on the ground floor to provide a brand new doctor's surgery. The local Labour councillor, the local Conservative councillor, the local community all lobbied for it, as well as the MP. And the developer said, we'll give it to you. We'll provide the new GP surgery. But unfortunately, the existing local GP, who was oversubscribed, objected to the planning application because it wasn't in their interests to see a new one delivered. And the NHS subsequently said they don't want a GP surgery and rather have a cash payment instead. So I think that's some of the unfortunate natures of things like infrastructure provision. However, I do welcome Councillor Abbott's motion. I support the motion. I support the amendment as well. I think there's nothing wrong in it. I think the amendment provides much more detail. So yeah, very happy to support both if required. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I rise to not support the motion this evening because I just feel that it's just a bit too self-congratulatory, and I don't think that the residents of Sybil Headingham would want me to do that. And I'm going to speak, and I'm voting purely on how I feel my ward members feel. But before I do that, and actually it's something that the parish council and I believe the Braintree Association of Local Councils has also brought up over a good number of years and haven't had an answer yet. If there is £1.9 million worth of Section 106 being held, who's getting the interest on all of that? And I haven't got the answer to that, and I'm rather hoping that at some stage someone will explain that to me. There are some good chinks of light coming through for the Headinghams, insofar as I understand now that the financial business case has now been completed at the NHS ICB board, and I'm really pleased about that, but I'm still very nervous about going out and saying to the residents that the medical centre's coming, because I've waited 10 years after the development. A development members actually that was set down and approved with trigger points in to deliver services before houses were built, and that went, and yet this authority spent £80,000 doing a feasibility extra to make sure this stuff was delivered, and it hasn't been. The NatWest Bank building sits dilapidated in the high street of the village. We do know, and thank you to Councillor Spray, that there is some good news on the Riverside Walk, and I've followed the advice and I've kept it very high level. But an update on the connection between Sybil and Castle Headingham would be really useful. What I'd also say is, and I understand this process very well as a long-standing member, around the Public Open Spaces Action Plan, now the POSSE, and it's all great. We all understand it. We add to it. But we're very much shaped by the views of the officers that sort of tell us that actually we need another allotment, whereas actually we want to get the roof on the village hall fixed, but that's not really what we need to be spending the money on. So communities are slightly ignored. And I just feel that, and maybe when we look at the corporate strategy, and I know we're going to be debating, we've had the terms of reference for the new community delivery plan, that actually there will be a more public-facing document that leaves this authority, where the people of Sybil Headingley can say, actually, item 10 says we're actually going to get the medical centre and it's going to be in October. And we all understand and relate to it. And at the moment, I don't feel we do. And that's the reason why I won't be supporting the amended motion this evening. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beevers. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I will not be supporting the amendment, and it really boils down to this word excellent. I think the administration has convinced itself that it has an excellent record, but those of us who have been around a while, I'm coming up to 25 years in a few weeks' time, don't see it that way, and I'm going to give you some examples. And with due respect to Councillor Spray, she was only talking about, I believe, Section 106 money. In terms of developing community infrastructure and facilities, we're talking about in the round, new homes bonus money, Section 106, and direct investment by the council, which is a much bigger pot of money. And as things stand, yes, we obviously welcome the progress on the Jeffreys Road community facility, and we're involved in the background in lobbying for it to move forward. But as things stand, those of us like Councillor Wright and I represent the 3 villages. We have almost no say whatsoever in what happens to new homes bonus money, even though it's being generated by very substantial growth in our own ward. In fact, our rural ward is looking at well over 1,000 houses in a decade, perhaps even 2,000 houses. We're not consulted about where the new homes bonus money is going to be spent or what on. And it's even worse than that, Madam Chairman. In respect of Rivenhall, every single development in Rivenhall Parish, some of them have now been transferred into Witham Town, the Section 106 money has gone to Witham, even though we have asked for support in Rivenhall. So this excellent record narrative, we don't see it. And many local examples have been raised, and you won't be surprised that I'm going to raise the issue of the expansion of Silver End GP surgery, a building which this council owns and which this council is receiving significant rental income for, and also has accrued hundreds of thousands of pounds of Section 106 monies for its expansion. Yet, and in reference to the debate we heard earlier about civility, we were called twice by a Conservative councillor who's not a member of this authority anymore, quotes, simplistic and naive for wanting the GP surgery in our own ward to be expanded. It's just not acceptable. Councillor Wright and I, and that is a facility which the NHS itself needs expanding, hence the Section 106 money. Councillor Wright and I organised last week one of our approximately annual update meetings for residents, and it would have been interesting Councillor Spray had been there to give the spiel she gave about everything being excellent, because that's not what we heard from residents. Not at all. We were asked what's happening with the GP surgery. How come we've got, and this doesn't just apply to Silver End, this applies to many villages in the southeast of the district, the incinerator, the commercial development, the housing, the pylons, the quarries, the road expansion, and yet this woeful lack of progress on delivering services, the shocking state of the local roads, the lack of anything meaningful to deal with the ever-increasing traffic levels and increase of HGVs. So if the council really did have an excellent record on delivery, which was fair across the whole of the district, we would have seen more of these requested upgrades, which officers, though, we probably bang on their door too many times, but we do ask repeatedly, and I did today, how are we going to move these things forward? And then just finally, Madam Chairman, in terms of direct investment, I was told when I asked about whether the council could purchase the old factory site in Silver End for a community-led redevelopment. Well, we don't do that type of thing at Blanchard Council. Well, you do. It's on the agenda tonight that you do. And it's on, and many pieces of land you have purchased and developed, but not there. So I would sum up the amendment by saying this. It says in it that the council's remit is limited, quotes. It appears to me it's limited to what this administration chooses to do.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I believe that's everyone. Councillor Tom Cunningham, a seconder of the amendment, and having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm pleased to second the amendment and disappointed that perhaps we couldn't come together on this tonight. I think it's important to appreciate that actually this authority does have a very strong record in levering in funding to help communities. Councillor Spray quite rightly alluded, as did Councillor Dervish, to the meaningful Section 106 contributions that have been generated over a number of years. And I think it's worth reflecting, and forgive me, I won't wish to imitate former Councillor Tattersley's blunt South Yorkshire approach to passing comment, but this authority can do many things. It has demonstrated expertise beyond its remit in achieving things for communities. It cannot commission doctors and nurses to work in health facilities, and I think we do really have to accept that. And actually, our record in delivering health facilities at the Victoria Square development and obviously Church Lane as well demonstrates where possible you can make a difference, but we can't directly commission doctors and nurses. I appreciate the points made by Councillor Staines, but I don't agree with it. I think this does set some sort of binding policy approach for the future. This authority has an excellent record in working with others to paint a picture of what strategic planning should look like, and has levered in considerable support in doing that. Cross boundaries, cross party. And I think it's very important that this council reaffirms a commitment to that in the future. If I was to criticise government of both the main parties, the ambition for housing has been right. Understanding that there's a need for housing has been right, but I think there has been a disconnect between that high ambition and the implementation on the ground in terms of levering in the infrastructure, both social and community. And I hope that both parties and ahead of the upcoming general election will articulate how they actually want to approach that going forward. I think we also have to move away from this argument that somehow SIL is the answer to all our problems. Planning reforms will invariably take place, and forgive me, I didn't quite necessarily, I may have misunderstood Councillor Staines, so I'm not going to comment directly on what he said, but the point that somehow SIL is the answer to all our problems, I think is a little bit of a misplaced thought. If you look at local authorities that have SIL, Chelmsford City, for example, local members, if they were debating this, would point to the huge inequality of SIL being collected on the development in Writtle and the money being spent in North Chelmsford. Quite some considerable distance away. Section 106, for its faults, levers in a certain community accountability, a local connection. But I appreciate it's not always perfect. These issues will always engender enthusiasm, passion, debate. We've seen this on more than one occasion. I think that's right. And absolutely, members are completely right to say that they're standing up for residents on this. I totally appreciate that. But going forward, I hope we can go forward in a spirit where these arguments aren't necessarily perhaps the pistols at dawn type debates that we've had in the past, and actually there can be some common ground behind first principles. And maybe if we're not there tonight, hopefully we might be there in the future. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Spray, as the proposer of the amendment, you may reply. Please, can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches and you should not introduce any new matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will just respond to a few of the remarks. Thank Councillor Dervish for her very kind comments, and I think Hatfield Peveril, which is her ward, is a really good example where a parish council and members, local members, do work well with BDC officers and others in order to bring about improvements. So I'm pleased about that. I won't repeat Councillor Cunningham's remarks in response to Councillor Staines about SIL, because I think we've covered that. Thank Councillor Taylor for his comments. Councillors and communities do have a role to play we hold Section 106 funding on behalf of other authorities, like the NHS and Essex County Council. We do our absolute utmost to ensure that those monies are spent in a timely manner, but we do not have control over it, but we make regular and very strong representation to them to ensure that that money is spent. Councillor Beavis thinks that the amendment was too congratulatory. Well, why not, I say, because actually we are very good at distributing the Section 106 money that is in our control. We're good at lobbying for that isn't within our control. It has benefited many of our towns and villages throughout the district. So why not give ourselves, we don't do it, I don't think we do it often enough, a bit of a pat on the back for doing something well and benefiting our residents. And she's quite right, Sybil Headingham actually is going to do very well out of Section 106 money. I appreciate that the Medical Centre and the Riverside Walk have been slower in coming forward than many of us would like, but nevertheless, they will happen and they will be a great benefit. And Councillor Abbott, well, you don't see it as excellent. Well, I do. I think we do a very good job of what we have control of, and where we don't have control, I will say again, we do our absolute utmost to make sure that our message gets across to those authorities who do have control of spending on healthcare, roads and so on. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. We will now take the vote on the amendment as set out in the addendum report. All those in favour of the amendment, please indicate. That's all on that side. Thank you. And three here. Thank you.
All against, please, Chair.
Sorry, all against, please. Any abstentions? Thank you. The amendment has been approved and the motion now stands amended as set out in paragraphs 2.3 of the addendum report. Members, we will now need to return to the motion as amended. The motion has already been moved and seconded by Councillor Abbott and Councillor Beavis. So we proceed with the speeches, commencing with Councillor Abbott as the proposer of the motion as amended. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't take so long because I've said most of what I was going to say on the amendment. I cannot support the amended motion, unfortunately. I wish we could, as per what Councillor Cunningham said, but I really do think the administration needs a bigger mirror and to check that their claims of wonderfulness are as accurate as they say they are. Where we start from, of course, in all this is the very high housing growth. And we heard at Local Plan Committee recently that BDC is meeting all its targets and some in terms of housing growth and delivery, local plan, etc. But in some places, including the ward council Wright and I represent, a significant proportion of that housing has been unplanned. It's come on appeal, or where the councils felt it couldn't oppose it because of its housing land supply position. And in part, that is a direct failure of both this council and the government in the chaotic local plan system and their ridiculous pursuit of the New Towns project, which led to a long delay in getting the Section 2 local plan through. So we would say there's not an excellent record across the whole district. And I thought it was very interesting when Councillor Cunningham said he was tempted to repeat words of the accent of Councillor Tattersley, but then made our point perfectly for us by talking about health facilities delivered in Braintree. That's our point. All the facilities and investment, or most of it, is going to Braintree and not to places like Silver End. This council And my point also about the monies available is completely missed by Councillor Brace. You went back to talking about Section 106. Yes, we know about the difficulties with Section 106. Totally accept some of them. But what about the direct investment? What about the new homes bonus money? There is no dialogue at all with us as members who represent these communities with very high growth levels. We're not. When's the last time a cabinet member picked up the phone or emailed us and said, "We've got this money available, or we're looking at options for spending this money. We'd like to talk to you about it." You just don't do it. So I think this idea that the council has an excellent record is just completely false. And as I say, if the cabinet members had been there last Friday and heard what residents in Silver End had to say, I think they'd understand that better. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Do any members wish to speak on the motion as amended? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion as amended only and may only speak once in the debate. Please raise your hands. Councillor Heath.
Councillor Walsh, Councillor Jeffries and Councillor Stein.
Thank you.
And Councillor Tom Cunningham as well, please.
Right. Councillor Heath, would you like to start, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As most members here know, that even in the short time that I've been on this council, I normally have something to say on most things. I didn't speak on the amendment because, to be perfectly honest, I didn't really understand it, and I don't really understand the amendment, the motion either. And what has become clear to me is that it is a long-going dispute between two sides in this room. Because if you read the motion and you read our constitution and part of it and our corporate strategy, it should all be covered in there. As I say, I've struggled with this, and all for open debate, but my suggestion out this evening would be perhaps this is something for a members' evening, because I don't like abstaining. I think we should always have an opinion, but I just can't have an opinion on something I don't really understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Could I have Councillor Staines, would you like to speak, please?
I hope I can help. I hope I can help Councillor Heath, Chair. So I look forward to seeing additional measures to improve community engagement into developer contribution discussions and negotiations beyond the statutory consultees, and appropriate planning conditioning so that they can deliver more. I also hope that the recently adopted motion relating to corporate community delivery plan will lead and inform this process, and perhaps the future adaptation of SIL versus the opaque S106 may be imposed on BDC, adding more money to spend more flexibly and able to keep up better with local needs. I expect most residents opening their council tax demands or finding that they've now joined a higher tax bracket will also wish that more had been achieved on their behalf from previous developer contribution opportunities. Even a £1 per tonne levy on gravel over the 12 million tonnes that's been suggested locally could contribute significantly to the pot of money available and give it back to those communities affected. But I fear this amended motion overlooks that very real opportunity. One of my favourite S106s came up last week. This was relating to a developer in relation to Panfield at Towlands that's paying itself just over £1 million over 5 years to run a bus between the Towlands, the new Towlands development and the town centre, 6 days a week, every half an hour. But what did it do for the residents up the B1053? What did it do for the residents of Panfield, Shalford, Wethersfield, Finchingfield, or everyone else that's losing their service on the 9A to something that we don't know about? This bus will have to travel through miles of gridlock to get to the town and will not deliver. We need to really look at this S106 agreement again. I remain disappointed that the majority seems to be seeking to restrict the council's remit, and Councillor Spray accepts that BDC has got more influence than perhaps just remit would suggest, and that can stop residents receiving more. Residents see all this in its dealings, be it with the Waste and Minerals at Essex County, the Home Office, other developments, and they might expect more, especially when so many councillors operate in both the Essex County Council and Braintree District Council. I really think we're missing a trick in failing to talk to the many smarter local people out there that do not sit in these chambers, that could inform the targeting, collection and funding of important services that do not appear on the tired 106 template. And I'm also confused that the last sentence talks about BDC planning policy enabling this infrastructure, communities being struck out, to come on stream with development, and hope it doesn't mean that communities will just have to suck up challenges caused by approved development, including those which Councillor Abbott knows has been approved at appeal, and then continue to have little or no say in the developer contributions that could A, address the locally foreseeable impact from a development, and B, make it more bearable, especially relating to congestion, declining roads, pedestrian, equestrian and bike safety, or our failing public transport, or tired and under capacity village halls. A few swings in an area of open space just isn't cutting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Walsh, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wasn't planning to speak on this debate, but I would like to comment from a public policy and a planning viewpoint on the amended motion. For example, the use of the word excellent record. My wife comes from Singapore, and as many of you may know, Singapore is a country with no natural resources, and yet it's got a world-class record in delivering infrastructure. But they have a phrase, a pithy phrase, and it's not derogatory. I hope members are listening. That self-praise is an international disgrace. I understand the points that Councillor Spray said about Section 106, but I think perhaps we should be a little bit more ambitious. If I got the figures right, I think you said in 23-24, £833,000 was spent out of 1.8 million. Now, I know there are challenges in dealing with third parties, but that's less than 50%. And if we've got £11 million in balances, I think it's a reasonable question to ask openly, what else can we all be doing to try and increase that spend rate so that the infrastructure does indeed come with the development and not afterwards or not never? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Spray?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just in response to Councillor Staines' comments, also echoed by one or two other members around the lack of opportunity for engagement with ward members, we do have something called the Planning Members Forum now, which has been in operation for, I think, coming up for a year, where developers come to talk to members of the Planning Committee prior to an application being submitted, present their designs, and there is every opportunity, not just for members of the Planning Committee, but for the ward members who are notified in advance, to come and see what developers are suggesting, but also to ask questions and to plant the idea in the developers' minds of what they would like to see out of these developments for their ward. It's working very well. It was a very new thing for this authority, but it is working well, and it's an ideal opportunity to come and have that engagement at an early stage. And I would encourage any ward member who receives the email from the planning saying, you know, a developer is coming, this is happening in your ward, please do turn up to the meetings, have a listen and have your say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've grappled with this for several hours, both the amendment and the motion, and I don't have a problem with any of it, but I thought that's what we did anyway. And so we've spent nearly an hour discussing it for something that I think we already do or have the potential of doing within our constitution and our meetings. And we're discussing later on the corporate strategy, which surely encompasses everything that's here. So I just think if I showed this, and I have showed the amendment and the motion to members of the public, they're not getting anything out of that. They don't understand what it's going to mean for them. So I just think this has been a waste of time, and I hope that doesn't go against the hate debate that we had earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't wish to prolong any longer than perhaps we need me to this evening. We've given this a good airing, and sadly, I don't think we are going to get total agreement on this. But I think it's just worth pointing out a few things. Councillor Abbott once again makes the point about health. The locations where we enabled health facilities is where the health providers identified the need for those health facilities. Again, we have very little control and direction over that. I fear we're not going to get agreement on that, no matter whether I put on a South Yorkshire accent or not. For some other points made, I always listen with interest to Councillor Staines. Sometimes a little bit of policy bingo here, there and everywhere, or a little bit of issue bingo, get it all in there, neatly fitted in the 3 minutes. I'm afraid I didn't quite always understand where he's coming from on some of it. In relation to Councillor Walsh and reference to Singapore, again, interesting, but I didn't quite necessarily see the similarities, and particularly bearing in mind the remit of the Singapore government and Braintree District Council wasn't an obvious comparison. I agree with Councillor Jeffries. Maybe some of these things are best left to actions rather than words, and maybe let's bring it to a close now and do exactly that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I believe Councillor Taylor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Spray raises a very important point about control. I think members need to understand that some of these things are beyond our control, such as education. If we demand a new primary school or a secondary school, we may not get one because the county identifies basic need. And if the basic need's not there, then we can't provide the school because they won't provide the funding or would want necessarily for us to provide a new school, even if the developer wishes to pay for it. So it really is beyond our control. And we've seen an example of that in Chelmsford, where a school is oversubscribed and the request for admissions goes up and up and up every year, and a developer says, we'll build you a new school, we'll build you a new extension to the school, and they object, which is deeply, deeply frustrating. Also in the NHS, there's a formula. They don't just pluck the figures out of the air, so members need to understand that there is a formula, and that is based on number of units, 1.4 people per one-bed unit, times a sum of money. So it isn't necessarily Braintree District Council's remit. We're merely adhering to the rules which are set by superiors. So I think they're the 2 points I wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I believe that's everyone. So, Councillor Bevis, as seconder to the motion as amended, and having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
Yes, I do. Madam Chairman, thank you. So I just wanted to pick up on a couple of points, if I may. So in answer to Councillor Jeffries, no, I don't think it's been a waste of time at all, and I don't think it conflicts with civility in public life because it encourages good debate, and I think we've had that this evening, and that's the whole purpose of motions, and clearly there is some misunderstanding of delivery in the chamber, so I think it's really important that we get that out and try to understand what they are, because whether we're talking about Section 106, New Homes Bonus, or Community Infrastructure Levy, people and our parish councillors are getting really frustrated by its operation, and indeed we had a task and finish not so long ago on Section 106. What we do really well at this council is the way we promote things. We do it really well with the Live Well brand. We do it really well with the with the Green Heart campaign, and look at all the awards that we've got for that. When I was in Halstead the other day, and I now call it the Fluffy Cat of Halstead, I passed a post and there was a fluffy meow cat on it saying that we're against chewing gum and we're going to get it all picked up. And I thought to myself, why don't we have something in Sybil Headingham that says your medical centre's coming soon with, it's just not there. And I just wonder why it is like that. And I just think that when I've spoken previously in this chamber and we had the motion on the community delivery plan, what I'm actually talking about is a public-facing document. Because if we don't understand, and we've used that word a lot in this chamber this evening, how on earth do we expect the residents of the district to understand? Because what they really need is a document that simply says, I live in Headingham. That's what's going to be delivered, and this is when it's going to be delivered. And that's the bit we haven't got right, in my opinion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bevis. Councillor Abbott, as the proposer of the motion, as amended, you may reply. Please can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches and you should not introduce any new matters.
I'll be even briefer, Madam Chairman, in saying we're not going to find common agreement. I do hope, though, the administration have listened to some of the points we've made. It's not just a political ding-dong, they're heartfelt. They come from residents, they come from our parish councils and our communities. We don't just invent them. And talk to us, because that's not what we feel is going on at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. We will now take the vote on motion as amended, as set out on page 7 of the agenda, and as set out in paragraph 2.3 of the addendum report. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate. All those against, please. And any abstentions?
The amended motion's been carried, Chairman.
The amended motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. The vote concludes agenda item 7, and we will now proceed to item 8, questions to Leader and Cabinet. Before commencing with this item, can I remind you that each member may only ask one question of the Leader and the Cabinet on matters which relate to their functions, the powers and duties of the Council, or matters pertaining to the district which have taken place since the last meeting of full Council held on the 19th of February 2024. Questions must be succinct and cannot be asked in parts, and supplementary questions are not permitted. Please can I remind members that they may not make statements before asking their questions. I will allow some explanation if it is necessary, but I will curtail any long-leading statements. We have 30 minutes for this item, which will commence with the first question. Questions will commence with Councillor Bevis as Leader of the Opposition, and the order of remaining questions will be at my discretion. Please can all members wishing to ask a question this evening to now indicate so that I can, with the assistance of governance, make a list. Please keep your hand raised until acknowledged. Don't keep you a moment. Thank you. Got everyone there. Thank you. Could I start with Councillor Staines, please?
Thank you, Chair. Following the successful business fairs in Brain...
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, it should be Councillor Bevis. I'm sorry, Councillor Bevis. Do go.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and clearly your apologies accepted. I just wanted to ask the Cabinet member with the responsibility for planning her comments on a statement made by the Chairman of the District Council Planning Committee. And it followed a long and difficult debate on an application where the Chairman of the Planning Committee said that when it comes to rural policies that support business growth, they need to be looked at. I wonder what the Cabinet members' comments were. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bevis. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank Councillor Bevis for her question. Well, any member, regardless of whether they are chair of the planning committee or any committee really, is entitled to make a comment on policy. So Councillor Parker was entirely, correct to make that comment. I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure. She may wish to give you an explanation if you were to ask her directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Staines, would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Chair. Following successful business fairs in Braintree and Witham, will the Cabinet Member for Economic Growth be announcing a business fair for our rural communities?
Councillor Cunningham, is this? Sorry, Councillor Ritchie, yes, not here, is he? I think we'll have to have a written answer. Oh, just a moment.
She's answering.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Answer.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Staines. We'll work with Essex County Council to come up with a response to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coleridge. Could I have Councillor Prime, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, I'm aware at the budget we agreed for investment into producing a new strategy, asset strategy. Could the Cabinet Member responsible provide some more details around this current asset management function, review of the assets, how it's progressing and what it may look like going forward? Thank you.
Councillor Bowers, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Prime, for the question. Following the asset management, we've recently conducted an asset management review, and then following on from that is the actual asset management strategy, which we have through the budget process. And we've invested some money to deliver that, which will then give us a framework and an action plan, which will decide, as we've said a number of occasions, decide in regards what assets we wish to keep, which assets we wish to get more revenue from, and which assets we might want to sort of release and offload. We've also been recommissioning condition surveys, and there's been 2 phases of that about maintenance requirements over the next 10 years. There's been phase 1 of that, and which has now been completed and works have been delivered, and phase 2 is just about to start. Just to update Council, we've appointed our new Head of Property and Asset Management, who starts on the 22nd of April, whose her responsibility, or one of our responsibilities, will be ensuring getting the best financial benefit from our property portfolio. But just to conclude, as the asset management features as one of the 5 work streams as part of our Fit for the Future programme, which will be going on continuously, we have a clear commitment to ensure we get the best use out of our assets, both in terms of ourselves, our communities, our businesses, our residents, but also the need to ensure that we maximise the income generation from our assets to ensure they support the overall financial position of this authority, and that work will continue ongoing. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Could I have Councillor Hooks, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does the leader agree that the turnout in Rain and other villages regarding raising awareness of the quarries was a fantastic thing to do? But however, with the greatly amended BDC consultee response, will members be able to read it before submission, especially now that the date has been extended to the 9th of April? Thank you.
Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I agree that actually the turnout by residents, I think Councillor Hooks is referring to the chain of residents who formed in sort of protest at the quarries, was very impressive. Our response to the Minerals Plan review is robust. We had an excellent debate on it at the Local Plan Subcommittee. Our response from BDC, I believe, has now been submitted. I signed it off the other day. It is very good. It captures all the comments and amendments suggested by the members of the Local Plan Subcommittee. Not unsure. I'm pretty sure it can now be found online, but I will check for Councillor Hooks. And yes, I'm pleased that the consultation has been extended, which is down to some very good consultation responses from from this authority and also from many others. So I'm pleased that that's happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Schweer, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, would the Cabinet member give an update of how garden subscription waste services has gone in the first few weeks of implementation? Because everybody will know the huge amount of response to the early bird offer and subsequently the full offer now. The uptake has been huge, and I would just like to know how the implementation has gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you to Councillor Schweer for his question. And I'd like to give the following update. Approximately 33,236 properties have been collected over a 2-week period, increasing as new customers sign up to the service. And the call centre, the customer service centre here at Winchester Council, did receive approximately 1,200 calls during that period and emails over the first 2-week period. This was either a request for the new service, issues with the odd misplaced sticker, bin not being collected, etc. New subscriptions received approximately 982, and therefore net income £54,000 during that period. Total income from the subscription service approximately 957,000 and increasing week on week. Tonnage collected 66% of what we would ordinarily collect at this time of the year across the whole district. Letter being sent to customers where a bin has been presented but no subscription paid. There is a low amount of such cases. Madam Chairman, the routes will need time to settle down to determine the finite number of resources, vehicle staff required. This will all be part of the remodelling work linked to the planned quarterly financial review. Overall, we consider the new service has gone well, which reflected everyone's effort and hard work behind the scenes, the project team, back office staff, and actually support from the wider, I would call it, waste family in Essex, through the North Essex colleagues of the North Essex Waste Partnership, which Councillor Schweer chairs at Essex County Council. Thank you very much for their help across the board in implementing the service here. But most importantly, customer services, ICT, finance, our team here, but also the crews on the ground who are making this happen. And of course, above all that, the residents, their support, the patients, and their cooperation in the implementation of this new service. It's hugely appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could I ask Councillor Martin, please?
I'm asking for your help on this, actually, for officers and perhaps the county councillors amongst you. Outside one of my primary schools in Witham South, we have a chronic parking problem situation that is, well, it's grown beyond the primary school. The area surrounding the primary school is just getting a wider and wider problem. We've been trying to deal with this, well, ever since I was elected in May, really, but I've had another email this week about it from a resident, and that's why I'm speaking about it tonight. We've contacted Essex County Council, Parking Partnership, District Council, housing associations, and the school. There's a huge breakdown in communication now, especially with the school. It's becoming so dangerous, I think it could be a police matter. I'm asking for your help. Those of you who are Essex County Councillors, our Essex County Council for that ward hasn't done anything. We've been on ever since May. And maybe there's an officer here or a councillor with a link to Essex County Council that can help us. I need someone to take this on.
Thank you,
because we've
Councillor
run
Martin.
out of ideas now.
Thank you. You've asked your question. Thank you. Councillor Butland, are you able to assist? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As the fairly recent member of this committee on the North Essex Parking Partnership, I'd be very happy to see whether I can assist in any way through you, Madam Chairman. Perhaps after the meeting or sometime, I'm very happy also to come down and observe the situation firsthand with you and see what we can do together to see whether anything might be solved. Okay?
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, but I'll put it in as a written question because I think I want a bit more than 3 minutes, to be honest.
That's fine. That's very good. Thank you very much. Councillor Diamond.
Over the past few weeks, many parents in my ward have approached me with concerns over the lack of affordable youth clubs and services available. Given the cost of living crisis, many of our residents find that they cannot give their children opportunities to socialise with their peers within a safe space. Given that there are only fleeting references to the youth services in the corporate strategy, can you give details on how you would work with the Essex County Council and volunteer groups locally to tackle this issue? Thank you.
Councillor Mary Cunningham, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank Councillor Diamond for his question. I will give a full written answer to that because that's quite a detailed question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Could Councillor Toby Williams, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And just following on from our theme from earlier, the town of Witham is underserved when it comes to healthcare provision. And that is something that is going to be exacerbated if the planned closure of St Peter's in Malden goes ahead. I know that there is a real limit to what this council can do in terms of introducing new healthcare facilities. But could I ask the Cabinet member responsible to set out what this council is doing to try and facilitate a new and much needed healthcare facility for the town of Witham?
Councillor Bowles,
Lynette Bowles.
Sorry, Councillor Lynette Bowles-Flint, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As a key partner of the Mid-Essex Health and Wellbeing Alliance, this council works closely with our Integrated Care Board, and we will continue to support the ICB in finding suitable solutions to healthcare facilities across the district. At this stage, as far as I am aware, with the exception of the Malden birthing unit being permanently based at Braintree and has been for some time now, it's not currently confirmed exactly how other services will be impacted or relocated to. As a district council, our focus is on public health, reducing health inequalities and improving population health and healthy lifestyles. All these roles are designed to reduce demand on clinical health services, and as members we all know, our Live Well strategy is currently out to consultation, setting out the plans for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles-Flint. Councillor Ayton, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm just wondering why council tax is listed as going up by 3% on all the tax documents we've been receiving.
Councillor Bowers?
Many thanks for your question. I've asked the question myself in regards to finance. My understanding is something to do with about you can only go so many decimal points within on the document. I think you can't go to the 2, and that's why we haven't got the 2.96. We've got the 3%. But I am going to get that definitive answer, and I will circulate that to all members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Van Dulcom, please.
Madam Chairman, I'm speaking as a member of the Braintree Local Highways panel. Could the Cabinet member with the BLHP in their portfolio, Councillor Butland, comment on and reassure us about the claim on social media by an opposition member that, and I quote, the Braintree District / Essex County Council Local Highways panel has run out of money and your current county councillors have been asked not to submit any more improvement schemes, unquote. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I too saw that comment, I think posted by councillors Joe Beavis and Wendy Taylor. I'm sure it was posted with the best of intentions. I don't think it was a malicious post, but it is completely wrong. And it perhaps behoves us all to check before we do make statements on public social media which cause concern to residents. The LHP, Madam Chairman, of course, is an ECC-led function, although Braintree District Council members do sit on it. Can I say first and foremost, schemes can still be submitted through the ECC divisional members, and that there is still money available within the LHPs. However, the LHP meetings from March have been postponed and will be taking place in April. And there is a current reset of the local highways panels taking place in line with the wider highways improvement priorities. I'm sure those of us that have sat on LHPs have been frustrated that there have been large projects which basically, if approved, would have taken up the whole of the funding of an LHP. And as a result, many smaller issues, which are very often the ones that most impact our local residents, therefore get overlooked. So the County Council is intending to take those large schemes away from the LHP and will fund them from a new £2 million LHP Chairman's Advisory Pot. That will be all the LHP chairmen across Essex who will look at those large ones and make recommendations to the County Council. It's felt that this will make work much faster for the LHP panels and more efficient and hopefully deliver more for residents. I understand from Essex County Council that there will be more information to follow this at the end of the month. And as I say, I am not suggesting for one moment that the councillors for Headingham intended to cause any mishap as a result of what they put, but I look forward to them being clearly putting the correct situation to the public, and I'll very happily provide the wording if they would like.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question for Councillor Butland. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all your regular updates on Weatherfields, but they don't help me with regards to the questions I'm frequently asked, which are around detailed issues presented by Braintree residents, namely their perceptions and concerns around the influx of a large number of men in such a culturally different environment. I've had women residents share their fear of being in town on a Wednesday, but also have had other residents who wish to offer their help in a voluntary capacity. What I'd like to know is exactly how these needs are being acknowledged and addressed, with particular reference to any educational input being offered to both groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Mason. I mean, you raise a very serious question in that very often the perception is greater than the reality. To the best of my knowledge, we have not experienced any significant problems in our town centre as a result of some of the residents at Wethersfield coming into Braintree. They also, of course, go into Chelmsford and Colchester and other places. But certainly, through you, Madam Chairman, if there are particular issues, if you want to raise them with me directly, I'll be very happy to take that. The whole issue about what support, and I'm delighted that so many of our residents want to help those currently in Wethersfield, whether it's with learning English or that sort of thing, absolutely delighted on that. And we're very keen to encourage that, and that's what I talked earlier about resources being made available to help those residents at Wethersfield. Again, put them in touch with us, and we can perhaps also make arrangements for those skills and willingness to be used constructively with Wethersfield as well. So very happy to, through you, Madam Chairman, to discuss those.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Cabinet Member for Local Planning. I was wondering if we could have an interactive planning map for our district as a whole, showing known applications, other proposals, calls for sites, or where we have enforcement action underway. I would imagine that we have most of this information in the department as applications are digitised. I wonder if we actually have a map. I think, as you have said yourself, I think, Gabrielle Spray, some London boroughs do this, and I think it might improve the level of informed public participation in planning matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank Councillor Walsh for his question, which has actually been posed to me a couple of times by his colleague, Councillor Abrams. And I have explained that it's not actually possible to have an interactive planning map. I'm not aware that any London authorities do that. I may be wrong. Councillor Abrams has asked for something which is sort of live and that people can go on and see on a daily basis, you know, what is happening. There is a lot of information available on the planning portal. It's not difficult to find. You can look up and see what applications are coming in for your ward, what applications are already there and how they are progressing. But it simply would be too technically labour intensive, if I can put it that way, to have such a thing as an interactive planning map. I think we do very well with our technology. We are constantly looking to any way we can improve, but I think this would be a step too far. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Beavis, do you have a question? No, you've already asked, sorry, and Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As referred to earlier about the minerals plan consultation, in welcoming the very good process that was held through the local plan committee, there was also a press release issued which Councillor Spray was quoted on. Could I ask her please why lots of communities were mentioned but not Rivenhall, which has the largest number of proposed sites both within its borders or adjacent to it? Was that simply an oversight?
Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe that the comms team are actually going to respond to Councillor Abbott on this. If they haven't done so, I think it's maybe they just ran out of time to do it this afternoon. It's very simple in that they did not want to list all the sites. It just would have made the press release too long. It was no reflection on the importance of the ones that were mentioned versus the ones that weren't. And I did ask the comms team if they would give that response to Councillor Abbott. Thank you.
Thank you, members. I don't believe there are any further questions, are there? No? Thank you. That concludes this item. Any question requiring a written response will be answered within 10 working days of this meeting and shared with all members. We will now proceed to agenda item 9, the Braintree District Council Towlands Park Braintree Compulsory Purchase Order 2024. Members, this item is set out on pages 8 to 62 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Spray, Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure, to introduce the report and move the recommendations. Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The recommendations are set out on page 8 of the agenda. There are 4 of them, and after taking advice from the Head of Governance, I'm just going to read the first one, because this is an unusual procedure for us and very legal. So, recommendation A is that the Council agree that a compulsory purchase order be made pursuant to the powers in section 2261A of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 for the acquisition of the Orderland. I won't read the other 3 recommendations, but just to reference that they are to delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Growth to conduct the CPO process. I so move. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Spray has moved the recommendations as set out on page 8 of the agenda. Please can I have a seconder?
I formally second that.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. I will now invite Councillor Spray to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members may remember that I brought a report on this issue to Council at a previous meeting and said at the time it was one of the more unusual reports that I have presented, and that remains the case. Just to refresh memories, the piece of land referred to in the report, known as the Orderland, forms part of the Towlands Park Estate, Panfield Road, Braintree. Formerly a golf course and equestrian centre, it now has planning permission for a development of up to 575 homes, together with education, retail and community facilities. A key element of the scheme is to deliver approximately 66 new houses on the Orderland, including some affordable housing, together with part of the proposed linear park and a circular cycleway and footway. The problem, Chairman, and the reason we have this report before us this evening, is that the lease for the Orderland was granted in 1555, but the freehold title was never registered by its owner at that time. At the previous meeting of Council, members gave approval for this Council to use a process called the issue of statutory requisitions for information to try and determine the ownership of the order land. Unfortunately, despite the best efforts of our Corporate Director for Growth, the Head of Governance and the developer Repairbrook and their solicitors, it has not been possible to trace the owner. There was a response from a registered charity, the Coopers and Coburn Educational Fund, CCEF, but further investigation of their claim showed they are unable to satisfactorily demonstrate ownership. So, Chairman, although Repairbrook Limited currently have a leasehold interest in the order land with approximately 31 years remaining, this is insufficient interest to enable the development to be built out as it stands. In other words, they need to acquire the freehold. In order for matters to proceed, the developer has little option but to seek the assistance of the Council in purchasing the land, which is situated right in the middle of the whole development site, which is an approved site. Compulsory purchase orders can only be exercised by the Council. This is not a power available to an individual or developer, which is why it needs this Council's intervention. If the Council does not proceed to acquire the freehold interest of the order land compulsorily, the result is that this centrally located part of the Towland site will be left undeveloped. And at this point, Chairman, and again on the advice of the Head of Governments, I'm just going to quote directly from the report, point 3.12, because this is a legal and certainly for this Council unusual step. In order to authorise the making and pursuing of the CPO, Section 226 of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 requires that the Council must be satisfied that the use of the compulsory powers will facilitate the development, redevelopment or improvement of land, and that it is likely to contribute towards the promotion or improvement of the economic, social and environmental well-being of the area. Further, the Council must be satisfied that there is a compelling case in the public interest for making and promoting the CPO, that the use of the powers is necessary and proportionate, and that the public benefits associated with the proposed regeneration will clearly outweigh the interference with the rights of those affected. For the reasons given in the report following on from that point 3.12, we believe that we can demonstrate a clear public interest that justifies a CPO. I would also like to say that the developers' solicitors have been working very hard and collaboratively with the Council throughout this process. Needless to say, this isn't a quick process. If Council approves the CPO this evening, officers will start work immediately, but we're looking at probably August 2025 for completion. There are clearly defined legal steps for a CPO which have to be followed. We don't want to rush this, and we need to ensure that we get it right. Just turning to financial implications, if the Council agrees to the CPO process, the developer, Repairbrook Limited, and the Council will enter into a CPO indemnity agreement in which the developer will commit to indemnify the Council in respect of any costs and or liabilities of the Council in promoting the CPO. That includes any compensation payable to any party coming forward with evidence of freehold ownership. The current estimated cost for the delivery of the development on the order land is expected to be in the region of £7 to £12 million. That's for the development of the 66 homes on that piece of land. The developer's latest filed financial accounts for the year ending March 2023 show they have net assets of over £23 million, so they have more than sufficient funds, and these funds are available to be drawn down immediately if and when needed. The developer has set aside sufficient funds for the CPO process. However, it is not possible to say at this early stage exactly what the likely cost of the CPO will be. It goes without saying, Chairman, that there are legal implications connected to the CPO process. These are set out in the report under point 6 onwards, and I don't propose to read them, but the Council has to carefully follow this process in order to secure confirmation of CPO powers. I hope this statement has made it sufficiently clear what Council is being asked to agree to this evening and the reasons why. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you've been acknowledged. That's Councillor Walsh. Just Councillor Walsh? Councillor Walsh, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I've tried to look at this with fresh eyes, in a sense, partly because I'm not on the Planning Committee. In principle, this CPO procedure seems not just appropriate but desirable. And I know we're not discussing the planning merits as such, but there's a link. It's got outline permission. It's in the local plan policy as a strategic growth area, and indeed there are planning and community benefits. I do have a couple of questions, though. Do we know what the minimum level of access is required and desirable, and is not the link road essential? Do we know the view of highways? I have been told, but I don't know if this is true, that highways have indicated that you couldn't have an application that might be approved for more than 50 houses without the link road. And secondly, you've referred to the cost, Councillor Spray, of providing the houses on the order land, but do we have any idea what the total cost of the development might be? Because if, heaven forbid, the total development were to go into some financial question, shall we say, and lastly, are we entirely confident that the indemnity agreement would in fact meet all likely costs to the public funds through our council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Spray to respond? Or at the end? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Staines, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I just had a question, really. Is there any financial windfall to BDC or the developer Repairbrook for the overland land, which doesn't, I haven't finished this bit, for the houses to be built on it? Is there any financial windfall to BDC or the developer for land which doesn't cost any money for 66 houses?
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Just bear with us a moment, please. Is it Councillor Spray? Are you ready to respond?
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah.
Just briefly, Councillor Walsh's comments were really entirely planning matters, so I don't really have a response to those this evening because we are simply discussing and voting on the compulsory purchase order. He did ask about the indemnity agreement. My understanding from governance is that it will be absolutely watertight and there will be no financial liability for this council. And Councillor Staines, any windfall to BDC? No, this is a legal process we're discussing this evening for compulsory purchase order. All costs are going to be on the developer, which they have agreed to, and will be signing an indemnity agreement to. There's no windfall to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Butland, as seconder, reserving your right to speak, please can I invite you to speak now?
Sorry, Chairman, I thought the debate had come to an end, as Councillor Spray has done. I have nothing to add now.
Okay. Thank you, members. The recommendations set out on page 8 of the agenda have been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendations, please indicate. Any against, please? And any abstentions? The recommendations have been approved. Thank you. Members, we'll now deal with agenda item 10, polling district and place review. Members, this item is set out on pages 63 to 70 of the agenda. For this item, the report will be presented by Dan Gascoigne, Returning Officer. But first, I will ask Councillor Butland to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move the recommendations on the paper 2.1 and 2.2. The reason I'm not presenting it is because I have not played any part in the decisions of this. I think where people and how people vote is a matter which is dealt with by officers and not political people. So, but I need to formally move it as a member of the committee, but I leave it to the returning officer to present it to members.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. The recommendations have been moved. Please, can we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Reserve right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I will now invite Dan Gascoigne as the returning officer to present the report.
Thank you, Chairman. So as it sets out in section 1, the purpose of this report is to request that full council approves the revised schedule of polling districts and polling places within the district Braintree. And there is an appendix 1 which lists out the polling districts and places proposed. I'll just take you through some of the key issues in section 3 and on to the specifics in terms of the locations identified. So, as it says in section 3.1, the Representation of People Act 83 and the Actual Administration Act 2013 require each local authority to undertake periodic reviews of polling districts and places for UK parliamentary elections every 5 years in accordance with these acts. This review is required to be completed by the 31st of January 2025. For this council, the last compulsory review took place in 2020. However, due to the current electoral review being undertaken by the Local Government Boundary Commission England and their advice, it would not be appropriate to undertake a full review of polling districts at this stage. The council has not undertaken a full review of current polling districts within the district area, and following the publication by the Local Government Boundary Commission England of its final new warding pattern recommendations in 2026, the council will conduct at that stage a full review of polling districts and places within the districts. However, the council is aware that following the elections in May last year, there were some issues identified with a small number of the polling places, and therefore the council has undertaken a review of these locations, and those are the ones set out from section 3.12 down, which I'll just take you through briefly. So polling districts BL and DF1, Holy Trinity School. Some concerns were previously raised regarding parking and accessibility problems. However, the council has discussed these with the school to ensure that access to parking will be provided going forward, to ensure that people are able to access the site without restriction. Polling districts AZ2 and AY1, Notley High School is used in this case. The school has carried out some maintenance and security work on the site, resulting in new fencing being installed around the school perimeter. This has made previous access that was available very difficult. Previously, the council has had a porter cabin, and last year, one porter cabin was used for the double polling station, which was deemed to be insufficient. So 2 porter cabins will be located on that site now as to cover the double station. Polling districts AQ1 and CH, the council uses Templars Community Office in Shore Road and Witham. The site visit has been undertaken by an Association of Electoral AEA consultants, and the site was declared fit for purpose. There's some other notes there about East Light, who've offered to supply polling station staff. Polling district CN, Witham Town Football Club. Some concerns have been raised about difficulties for individuals finding the venue or difficulties navigating the access road. We do not believe there are significant issues in accessing. It's a tarmac path, very clear. Visibility and signage is always provided, so there's no proposal to change the arrangements at this time. And finally, polling district AU, Beckers Green Primary School. The council has been informed that the building previously used as a polling station has been condemned. There's nowhere else available within the school premises. So actually this is a recommendation to permanently move the polling station into Marks Farm Community Hall. That will make Marks Farm Community Hall a double station with polling districts AX, but the venue is large enough to hold a double polling station, adequate parking and other facilities. Chairman, that's all I was going to say about the report, just to pull out those changes, and I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you've been acknowledged. Councillor Martin, would you like to speak?
Right, the polling station I want to quickly say that I'm unhappy with what's just been said is the Templars Estate one. We still think that this is an unsuitable location, it's too small, it's difficult to find, and there's no parking that's adequate. It discriminates against women with face covering particularly, as there are no private facilities to check ID. Too far and inaccessible for the new estate residents. Disabled access is questionable. Perfectly suitably located school is close by, easily visible from the main road, Templars Primary School. Electoral Commissioner recommended use of schools. I also have issues with other polling stations that are in my ward, but I was not consulted about these before this report was printed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Diamond.
Will there be an information campaign to share a change in the polling station in Braintree Central and Beckers Green beyond what is written on the polling card? Turnout here is already worryingly low, with less than 1 in 4 using their vote in 2023. Those without a car may also find it harder to access the new polling station too. I am worried that unless we make the change clear, turnout will be even lower. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Diamond. Councillor Pell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to speak about Holy Trinity School, where we hold polling station there. I showed concern at the last election and the one before. I see that you've now had meetings with the school and that it will be resolved, because last time I was inundated with people that were unable to get in to vote, and also it was discriminatory against people with disabilities because they also couldn't get in, and our officers were over there quite a bit. So I'm hoping that that will not happen again. It's a very suitable place if they're allowed in to park. So I'm trusting our officers to keep an eye on that one and to make sure that what happened in the past will not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pell. Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, every politician from parish councillor up to Prime Minister says that they wish that more people took part in their democratic right to vote. And yet we seem to just be going backwards in allowing people the opportunity to do that. I first voted 39 years ago when I looked it up, and I came home from work as an 18-year-old, got off the train, walked to my polling station, gave them my name and my postcode, and I voted. I would not have been able to vote if that was today, because I didn't have a driving licence and I didn't have a passport at the time. I had no proof of it. I also struggled to see that on a number of the polling stations that we have listed, that they are fit for purpose. I mean, the football club in Witham, if the election is held between May and the end of August, it'll be fine because it's light. That is not a tarmacked path, it's a tarmacked road that is walked upon by pedestrians. There is too many polling stations just in Witham, so what it's like throughout the whole of the district, I don't think, that just aren't fit for purpose. And I don't think it is ever given enough seriousness. If we continue to say that we want more people to vote, we must give them the opportunity to vote. And denying people the chance to be able to come home from work or from whatever and go to a polling station and vote that is near to where they live is not an opportunity, and we're only going to see our turnouts go backwards. When we do our full review after the next boundary change, can we ensure that the ward councillors are involved in that? Because I've never been asked if I think the polling stations where I live and where I represent work. I mean, I'd like to think that I'm still fit and able. I can walk to the polling station, but if you can't walk to the polling station where I do vote, then you'd have trouble getting there and parking then, and it must be the same at all other ones. I honestly don't understand why we don't vote electronically, but there you are. And I just think this matter needs much more seriousness than what it seems to get. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, members. Your comments have been duly noted. Councillor Cunningham, as seconder, reserving your right to speak. Please, can I invite you to speak now?
Just speak very briefly on this and thank the Chief Executive for his presentation. I think finding voting arrangements with the complexity of political geography anywhere is extremely difficult. And I have to say, I think the Council has gone about this in the best way it possibly can. And obviously, as the Chief Executive alluded, this is a temporary arrangements in time for the Police and Fire Crime Commissioner elections on the 2nd of May. I appreciate that there's a general election on the same day, which it's still possible within a week or two to be called. Then obviously I think that has a greater influence on enabling additional polling stations in across the district to alleviate some of these concerns. But I think we can all be safe in the knowledge that this will be comprehensively reviewed after the 4th of June, when the boundary recommendations for the County Council boundaries are confirmed, although I believe there is a small caveat there that the Commission reserves the right for a brief period of further consultation in some areas. So it's 90% likely that we'll know on the 4th of June. And of course, if current proposals for county boundaries go through, there will be significant changes to polling districts, particularly in the urban Braintree area. So I think we've got a very good makeshift arrangement for May, with the possibility of improving it in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Butland, as proposer, would you like to reply to the speeches before I put the recommendations to the vote?
I don't have anything to add, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, members. The recommendation set out on page 63 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendations, please indicate. Thank you. Any against, please? And any abstentions? No. Thank you very much. It's been carried. Yes. Yes, the recommendations have been approved. Thank you, members. We will now deal with agenda item 11, election fees. Members, this item is set out on pages 71 to 73 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Butland to introduce the report and move the recommendations. And please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendations must be seconded.
I move the recommendations on agenda item 11.
Thank you. Councillor Butland has moved the recommendation. Please can we have a seconder?
Second, Madam Chairman, reserve right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'll now invite Councillor Butland to speak on this matter.
Madam Chairman, I don't want to go into great detail on this. I think the paper is self-explanatory. DLUC released expense guidance for returning officers in February, on the 27th of February 2024, which set out the pay bands that apply to all posts across Great Britain, paid for by the Consolidated Fund. Council is now required to carry out a matching exercise to ensure that the roles and fees paid under its current fee structure for election staff is in line with the new national pay bands. We will need to do that, but we will need to do it in time for the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner election scheduled in May. And this is clearly our next meeting as a council is not until then, so we do need to do that at this time. This paper asks that we delegate authority to the Chief Executive as the head of paid service to approve the election fees for all staff. I would point out that the Chief Executive is also the returning officer, but the returning officer fee is not part of this. So we are not delegating to the Chief Executive the right to determine what his fee might be for this. But this is for the staff who, I was going to say volunteers. I don't mean volunteers, but very often retired colleagues, etc., who come back and act as poll clerks and presiding officers, etc., on the day of the election. So I would ask, Madam Chairman, that the Council agrees to delegate authority to the Chief Executive to approve the election fees paid to all staff employed by the Council for the purposes of delivering elections held in 2024-25 in consultation with the Section 151 officer. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you have been acknowledged. No? No members have indicated that they wish to speak on this item. Therefore, I'll now ask Councillor Cunningham as seconder. Having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
Nothing else to add, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, so, Jen, we can move, unless there's anything that Councillor Butland would like to actually add.
No, I don't
we
think there
can
is.
move straight to the vote.
Thank you, members. The recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation, please indicate. That appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. We'll now deal with agenda item 12, Corporate Strategy 2024 to 2028. Members, this item is set out on pages 74 to 87 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor Butland to introduce the report and move the recommendation. And please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendation must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move the recommendation to approve the new Corporate Strategy 2024-28 as set out in Appendix A of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. You've now moved the recommendation. Please can we have a seconder?
Seconded, Madam Chairman, and reserve right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'll now invite Councillor Butland to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The purpose of this report is to approve the new corporate strategy from 2024 to 2028. The corporate strategy is intended to be a high-level setting out of our ambitions and priorities for the next 4 years. Not in the detail, but to be our guiding principles as we move forward over the next 4 years. The strategy introduces a vision for this council, which is set out in 3.2, to create a district of opportunity, a place where our communities can thrive, our people can prosper, and our environment is cherished for all to enjoy. We've deliberately tried to keep the document concise and hopefully readable, picking up on some of the comments that were made earlier this evening about how much members of the public can get hold of this and decide what it means for them. We've picked 3 key themes, those of communities, prosperity and the environment. And for each of the themes, we've set out on the pages what we mean by communities and what we heard, particularly important, what we heard from residents, community members and stakeholders in the consultation that took place. We've then set out in the middle of that page our key priorities for that particular that particular key theme. And also then we've set out how we will achieve, because writing words is one thing, but achieving action is another. So on our communities, I think our key priority is quite clear. Health and well-being, I think, is something which the whole of this council is very well signed up to, and helping to reduce health inequalities. Providing affordable, high-quality, safe homes is another key area. And we shouldn't forget the reduction of social isolation and loneliness, because that is something which, whether you live in a rural or urban area, is something that you may well face. In terms of the prosperity, clearly economic growth is important to any district. It plays a crucial role in improving the health and well-being and living standards of our residents. People who are in employment and feel valued by society generally have a much higher life expectancy and a much higher health standard. So we want to create the conditions for a sustainable economic growth within the district, and that is what we have set out under the prosperity heading. Must be sustainable, must be accessible, with strong connectivity and infrastructure, picking up, I think, on some of the issues that we've already discussed this evening. We want to attract and support business growth, and I think that's something which we have a very good record in this district of achieving, whether it's been areas like, for example, Horizon 120 and Skyline 120, which was before that, of providing high quality jobs in this district. We do not want to be a district that merely exports people out of the district to work each day. And finally, in terms of the environment, our district, we all believe, I think, is an attractive place, full of opportunities and offering safe, clean and green spaces for all to enjoy. We need to protect and enhance our built-in natural environments across the district and continue the very good work that we've been doing on our green plan and moving forward on that. We want to support residents and businesses to reduce their carbon footprint and also be more resilient to climate-related impacts. There are three key areas: communities, prosperity and the environment. But this will be a challenge. I think all members will recognise how difficult the economic and political environment will be, whatever the result of any general election, for local authorities in the future. And we need to ensure that we are in a position as a council to be able to meet the recommendations and promises that we are making. And therefore we will need to look into how we operate as a local authority. And we have put in the paper how we see us being fit for the future, how we deliver and both economic and financial stability which will enable us to take that forward. It is ambitious. This district is ambitious. Collectively as a council, we have been ambitious and we want to take that forward. And I think I would commend this strategy to members to adopt tonight, which gives us the signposts for how we go forward between now and 2028. I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you've been acknowledged. Councillor Dervish, Councillor Schwier. Councillor Dervish, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I very much welcome the corporate strategy presented and commend all officers and members who are involved. I especially welcome the key priorities within our communities. Sorry, excuse me. Improve the health and well-being and quality of life for individuals and families. Provide affordable, high quality and safe homes that meets the needs of our residents. Reduce social isolation and loneliness, develop safer and more resilient communities. And as an elected member and Deputy Cabinet Member, I very much look forward to working hard to help achieve these goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dervish. Could I invite Councillor Heath to speak, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I fully support this document. I like the conciseness of it. I like the key points involved in it. And now what we have to do is prove that it's just not words on a bit of paper. It must be what we aim and work for. And if in 2028 this council can say that it's achieved 90% of this, it can be very proud of itself. If it can achieve 100%, then that's even better. But no, it's a good, solid document that everybody can understand, everybody can see. Yes, food in your stomach, a roof over your head, and to be able to run and play where you like is what we must be able to do. And that's it. Yep, look to the past, but be fit for the future, eh, Graham? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Could I invite Councillor Schwier, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I think this corporate strategy, as already been mentioned, is a very high level, and really welcome this because it's signposting the ambitions for the future. And of course, I'm particularly interested in the environment, as you know, and I think it sets out very well those 4 priorities there. And in that, of course, that is going to integrate very much with the prosperity and our communities as well. And overall, this document has been set out very well by the officers, and as previously said, it's concise, easy to understand, and I think anybody who picks up this document will be able to understand what the ambitions of the future are for Braintree District Council. And just to give an indication of what we've achieved so far already with the environment, we've managed to get £10 million worth of grants into energy saving retrofit. We've nearly planted 19,000 trees as well, and we've actually put in about 64 EVs. So it's all about sustainability. It's all about this collaboration and working together as well. And I think this document highlights that in great detail, and the preciseness of it is to be welcome for the future. And as I say, it's going to be fit for the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schwer. Councillor Staines?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Corporate strategy. It would have been great to see, at a high level, a goal to increase developer contributions across a broader range of services than before to address changing demand and help mitigate funding uncertainty. One wonders if any of the goals cited in the communities section of the corporate strategy could have been funded in full or part by increased developer contributions, working with everybody and freeing up scarce resources to fund other things. Prosperity fails to mention one of the district's key selling points and most under-resourced areas of economic activity, tourism and rural leisure. Even though one of the district's preeminent tourist centres of Finchleyfield is pictured on the super eye-catching front cover of the corporate strategy, rural planning policy interpretation is restricting sustainable growth to this area, as identified by Essex County Council in October last year, as tourism, arts, culture and creative, which is an existing strong sector, but this sector is not mentioned in our district corporate strategy at all. The Essex Sector Development Report goes on to say they are seeking to collaborate on initiatives that deliver an impact wider than their own geographic boundaries, and they cite the various contributions to economic growth, including infrastructure, planning and housing, skills, business support, inward investment, wait for it, the rural economy and tourism and international trade. Environment. BDC has responsibility for air quality, but still employs old equipment that cannot inform or help its residents in real time to address the health challenges of congestion, especially small particles. Fit for the future. I share Councillor Heath's reservations on this. The words in this section and scant detail provided simply do not merit the amount of money being earmarked in the BDC budget for this Silver Bullet initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to begin by thanking Tracy and her team for the huge amount of work that I know goes into this, and that was well versed at the recent member development evening. And if I was asked as a member, what do I want to deliver over the next 4-year period, of course I would be saying I want to deliver on the Council's corporate strategy. But I'm also very mindful of some of the key points that came out at member development, and that was residents are fed up with congestion, they want to feel safe, and they want to have good access to public open spaces. Whatever we feel, this is what the people are saying, and you know I'm very mindful of that because we need to listen and we need to deliver. I thought it was a good process, as I've said, public consultation, the members' evening, going to Cabinet, and here tonight at full council. During the process of looking at the strategy, the Independent and Green Group brought forward a motion to full council to consider a community delivery plan, and recently we've been given the date for the meeting and a set of terms of reference as well. But that actually went beyond just the council's corporate strategy. It was looking at the other key priorities for our district, including things like Live Well and the Community Safety Partnership. And I do agree this is a high-level document, but I don't really think that the people of the district get it. And there are many excellent examples of other districts that have put out documents that people can really have ownership of. And that, to me, is what the Community Delivery Plan is all about. At the meeting of the Cabinet, I posed a question to the leader, and I said that I felt that the strategy was rural light, and that it came out at the member development evening that actually we didn't have as many responses back from the rural communities. He has calmed down a bit now from his response to me, and I've calmed down a bit with listening to that response, albeit I have noticed that he's written to Essex Life in the last few days, and it's published all over social media. But actually, the point I wanted to make was the question that I asked to have a written response from officers where the leader said, actually, I will give you a written response, I still haven't had. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis.
Madam Chairman, just on a point of order, I haven't written to Essex Life at all. Could you just withdraw that remark, which is completely inaccurate?
Madam Chairman, through you, if I may, there is an article in Essex Life from Councillor Batland in his comments about that Cabinet meeting. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, again on point of order, what Essex Life capture on a public video is up to them. I had no part in that, and the first I saw it was when I read it on the Essex Life following an email from her deputy leader.
Thank you. Just bear with us a moment, please.
Chairman, on a terms of point of order, if it's correct that Councillor Button didn't write the article, and that article has been generated by a journalist after observing one of the council's broadcast meeting, then it would be appropriate a request for Councillor Beavis to withdraw that remark associated with Councillor Butland being the author of that article. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm more than happy to withdraw my point of view. I mean, one could look upon that as interpretation, but it certainly looks to me as if, you know, quoting quote, that comments were made. The broader point, if I may, Madam Chairman, is I'm still waiting for an answer to the question that I asked at the Cabinet, where the leader said that he wouldn't ask an officer to respond, he would respond himself, and I still haven't had a response. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis.
I will leave it to the public to judge who is correct on this.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Right, Councillor Cunningham, as seconder, reserving your right to speak, please can I invite you to speak now? Sorry, Councillor Abbott, we have you listed here. Councillor Abbott, would you like to speak?
It's getting late. I'll be as brief as I can. To some extent, we're repeating some of the issues from the earlier debate. There's just a few things I wanted to pull out. And I'm not saying the whole document's no good, that there are lots of good things in here, and just to emphasise, there are lots of good things the Council does do. You know, sometimes we criticise, but I think it's worth saying. But I pulled out a few of the quotes. One of them was in paragraph 3.4, providing equal opportunities is the heart of everything. Well, that's not happening across the whole of the district. And there are specific issues in the southeast of the district. And the word I pulled out, listening to Councillor Butland and his colleagues, was attractive district. At the discussions we had at local plan committee about the quarries, a lady, I believe, from Coggeshall produced a map, which I think Councillor Walsh was sort of getting towards, where you put all the development proposals on one map and you can see. It was like a child throwing paint in the southeast corner of Braintree district. It's not going to be an attractive place to come to if we have the incinerator, the pylons, unplanned housing growth, quarries, major road building and all the rest of it. And it's becoming less attractive day by day due to the amount of traffic that's being generated, the potholes, the litter. Again, talk to us. If one of you was to come round with me, I'll show you the deterioration in the environment in the southeast, not all of it, but substantial parts of the southeast of the district. The leader's intro in the document talks a good game about access to services, but again, that's demonstrably not the case across the whole of the district in the fair share aspect. The lion's share of investment, and we will keep saying it because it's true, has gone to Braintree Town. Braintree Town got a new health facility even while it's already got a community hospital. And yet the villages of Silverend and Cressing, and some people in Rivenhall as well who are also registered at the GP surgery in Silverend, wait years for the upgrade and nothing seems to happen. I thought it was very interesting that one of the Conservative members mentioned the health facility for Witham. How many times on leaflets have Conservatives in Witham, Privy Patel in particular, talked about delivery of a new health facility for Witham? It hasn't happened. As the document sets out, approximately 50% of our residents live in the three towns and about 50% live in the rural areas. Now, administration councillors sometimes get annoyed when we on the opposition benches talk about support for the rural areas. And to be clear, this is not about COVID support, which the council did very well, and it's not about cost of living support, which the council has done very well. This is very specific to some of the things in the corporate strategy about infrastructure report to do all of those things that all communities need: transport, health, community facilities and essential other means to support their existing and rapidly growing areas. If I could give one example, Braintree and Witham are getting investment in cycling facilities. Wonderful. Where is it for the rural areas? I proposed years ago that we have a network. There is one good scheme, the one on the eastern side of the district, but I proposed years ago a network of cycling links that would connect up the bigger villages, particularly in the south of the district. It could be a game changer in terms of modal shift, improving health, and getting people off these very dangerous roads. I have family members who go on those family roads, and I'm glad they get home each night. The number of lorries and increase of cars, and they're sharing it with cyclists. We need to get them separated so that we have a safe cycling network. So as a suggestion, instead of generalities, why doesn't the administration publish a list of investment in specific facilities and premises, very much like the plan we proposed from this side, and the amounts to be spent across the whole district? And then, as Councillor Butland just said, residents can read it and make up their own minds.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Taylor, did you just indicate you wanted to speak?
I did. Madam Chairman, the corporate strategy, I think, is a good reflection of the manifesto that we put to the public in May 2023, and we've got the mandate to deliver that. And I think, Councillor Heath, if we deliver 90% of it, will you support the Conservatives at the next election? Because the administration certainly will have delivered on it. I jest. I think Councillor Staines talks about developer contributions, and I do concur, but I have to hammer home the point that it isn't necessarily, well, it isn't in our gift to just promise things that, you know, for example, healthcare. You know, there is a formula. The NHS set it. You know, we can't just demand X, Y, Z from the NHS. As much as we want and as much as it's frustrating, and we all campaign for these things. A new school, as I said in the previous debate, basic need. We don't set that. As frustrating as it is. So I do have to hammer home those points. You talked about air quality. I think we have to be very careful on air quality. And I notice in your, in the Independent and Green manifesto, if I remember correctly, the air quality monitoring systems. Effectively, that's ULEZ, isn't it? And I think we exposed that in the election, certainly in Witham North, and certainly in my election leaflets, because I know certain members love referring to my election leaflets. And actually in Brighton and Hove, the Green Party actually introduced ULEZ. So I think if the Independent and Green group... I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you.
Right.
Just point of order has been called. Just we have to do what we do. Continue with that.
Dealing with facts.
Would you please state the item?
Yeah, if we're dealing with facts, we seek a retraction. There is nothing about a ULEZ scheme in the ING manifesto for the elections. It proposes merely air quality monitoring. It doesn't propose anything else. So that comment needs to be withdrawn.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Just
order. For the sake of the time of the evening, remember, it's clear what's in the manifesto.
it is clear what is in the manifesto, Councillor Taylor. How would you like to respond to that? Do you?
Well, air quality monitoring leads to ULEZ, as Mayor Steve Carter and the Green Party in Brighton and Hove introduced it to demonstrate proof to introduce ULEZ. You need air quality monitoring systems.
That's enough.
Chairman, you have dealt with a point of order. If the information is incorrect, then the member should be invited to withdraw it. For the sake of being 5 to 10 at night, I assume members would like to retire sooner than later. I'd ask that members...
It's my interpretation, but I withdraw it. But it's my interpretation. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this item this evening? No? Then I will invite Councillor Cunningham as seconder to...
we've had a very spirited debate, and I think it's right that corporate strategy should have a spirited debate, and I think let's concentrate on where we do find some measure of agreement. This is a corporate plan for this council, for a district. modern, forward-thinking and prosperous district, a district that we want to be prosperous and work for all residents of the Braintree district. And for those who aren't benefiting from prosperity, my goodness me, do we want to do what we can to help those people. This is an attractive place to live. People want to live here, and we must always remember that going forward. Just one very brief comment, if I may, Madam Chairman. 4 years ago, we were agreeing our corporate strategy, and then suddenly we were in lockdown. And I'm I'm very grateful that Councillor Abbott did acknowledge the work of this council and local government, the role it played. I had the privilege of having the economic development portfolio there and knowing how much first-hand support we could give to business, where the emphasis, where the corporate strategy said business growth, inward investment, actually the focus was on survival. And therefore, some of those elements of the last corporate strategy couldn't be delivered because the focus changed in a way that we never would have imagined. So now I think we have a corporate strategy that builds on recovery and unlocks a great deal of opportunity. Regarding Fit for Future, I appreciate there are different views on that. It is essential that local government has a new engine, whether it's imposed upon it or whether it does it organically, working with others to fit the challenges of the future. I think you'll see a lot of us moving forward at pace on that. The corporate strategy lasts for 4 years. In reality, we haven't actually got a moment to lose on any of this, and therefore we crack on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Butland, as proposer, would you like to reply to the speeches before I put the recommendation to the vote?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you to all who have participated. Can I say to Councillor Heath, I think you're spot on. You have to hold us to account on delivering this, and that's what I would expect from a sensible opposition, and that's what I feel I will get from a sensible opposition. And that is something which we will intend to honour what we have put here. I hope we can work collectively together. I would offer one word of advice to Councillor Beavis, the Leader of the Opposition. Just be careful that you don't end up with the small green tail wagging the independent dog. You need to be careful because it's at some stage you're going to have, as I believe, you're going to be putting up candidates, etc. together. You're going to have to decide whether you're going to go down the same road as the Green Party and basically all be Green Party, or whether you're going to be truly independent. But I hope that we can work collectively with as many people in this council as possible. It's not everything in there, I accept, but we'll do it. And I will reassure you yet again, I know we had a little spat at Cabinet, but you and I would advise your Deputy Leader, who has made comments this afternoon on the social media about that actually, if he had been there, he would have seen that we agreed to differ. I think I said a 0-0 score draw, and we laughed. He said, we can work together, I am sure, on this. And I think that's very important, because this is for the whole of the district. And by the whole of the district, I don't differentiate between whether people live in urban areas or in rural areas. The needs are different. The needs sometimes are greater in urban areas than they are in rural areas. And we have to try and get a balance. And as was pointed out, 50% of our population live in the urban areas and 50% live in the rural. We will endeavour to do it. Inevitably, Madam Chairman, as we've said in terms of where we invest money, there's likely to be more money invested in urban areas because people don't want stuff in rural areas. We want to keep our green and pleasant countryside. So one must expect that that will be the case on occasions. What we do need to do, though, is to talk about accessibility. And as I have said, Madam Chairman, to the Leader of the Opposition, that's why we gave the money to the food banks to say, actually, we don't want you to spend it in Braintree. We want you to get out and into our own, for example, our own ward. So I hope collectively that in adopting this strategy, we have a clear way forward, and I very much welcome the opposition holding us to account on how we deliver it. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. The recommendation is set out on pages 74 of the agenda, has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation, please indicate. It does appear to be unanimous. Thank you very much. The recommendation has been approved. Members, we will now deal with agenda item 13, dates of full council. Just bear with me, please, members. Thank you. Members are asked to note a change. Councillor Abbott. Thank you. Members are asked to note a change of meeting date for full council. The meeting of full council, originally scheduled for the 28th of October 2024, has been moved to the 4th of November 2024. This item is for noting only, and can I take it, please, members, that this item is noted? Thank you, members. The change of date for full council is noted. This item concludes the business for this evening. Thank you, members, for your attendance and participation at this evening's meeting, and to those watching on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of this meeting will be published on the Council's YouTube channel as soon as possible, and I will now formally close this meeting at 2200 hours precisely. Thank you.